Hello. Just going to give everybody a few minutes to go ahead and get in here. Super excited. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start here in just a few seconds. Just want to make sure everybody's getting in. Okay, I think we've got everybody. All right, so hello, my name is Carrie Corcoran. So welcome to first time homebuyer class. Today, the title of our class is Biggest Mistakes First Time Homebuyers Make and How to Avoid Them. So I'm super excited to have you here. So thank you for joining me today. Wherever you're joining from, if you're on your couch, if you're, maybe you're at work and you're taking a break or, whatever the case is, I just want to thank you for joining us. So I say us, I have somebody that is monitoring the chat for me. So if you have questions throughout, go ahead and drop them in there. We want to make sure we get everybody's questions answered. First and foremost, this is your time. It's your opportunity to learn everything about buying a house. The whole process it can be confusing. I joke that we as realtors, we do this every day. And so it becomes very second nature to us, and we get in the habit of just kind of talking in industry terms. And they're not necessarily everyday terms, probably no different than if I were to step into your job and try to understand everything that you do. Your job, you come with experience, knowing what it is that you do day in and day out. This is what I do. So, plan for today. This will be very laid back, no pressure at all. So if you want to keep your camera off, that's totally fine. If you want to keep your camera on, that's great, whatever you're comfortable with. So if you're watching this on a replay and you have questions, always feel free, please, to go ahead and reach out. So, all right. Quick little housekeeping. First off, this is your class. So if you want your camera off, completely fine. If you want it on, again, that's great, whatever you're comfortable with. We'll be checking the chat at certain points, so feel free to go ahead and load it up with questions. And we'll also have like Q&A breaks. So if you're wondering something, chances are somebody else is too. So remember, no dumb questions here. Again, you're not supposed to know what you're doing. I always joke that if you knew what you were doing, I wouldn't have a job. So it's my job to know all of this stuff. Home buying is just super confusing, and it can be very daunting, and more times than not, because people don't know the ins and outs of it, it prevents them from even taking that first step. So what we want to do is eliminate that barrier here and, really arm you with the tools and information to, know what your next step is. So my goal is you're going to leave this meeting, you're going to know what your next step is. If you have any questions, you're going to reach out and ask them. And I tell my clients all the time, I really expect you to retain like a fraction of what it is that we're talking about here. And what I mean when I say that is I'm going to throw a lot at you. A lot of it's going to be, very industry specific, but I want you to at least hear it. So in the future, when you're actually going through the process and you hear it again, you go, oh, wait, I've heard this before. And so you have some context for it. And you may not remember everything about it, but at least there's a little bit of familiarity there. So let's see. All right, we're gonna do a quick little check-in. So first off, how is everybody feeling? So if you could do me a favor and drop in the chat like a little emoji. Let's see. If you're excited, put like that little fire emoji in there. I don't know why I'm doing this, but if you're excited, go ahead and put the little fire emoji in there. If you're nervous, what's a nervous emoji face? It's that one maybe with like the little teardrop coming or water drop coming down. Whatever looks like a nervous emoji. Go ahead and drop that in there. If you're feeling overwhelmed, let's do like the mind blown one. If you're feeling just kind of calm, cool, and collected, and you're like, it's gonna be fine. I've got this. Put like the little, I think there's one with like little sunglasses in there. So you can go ahead and put that in there too. Okay, so excited. All right, I'm seeing some excited, some nervous. That's totally fine. Overwhelmed. That is a very common one. Yeah. When people, yeah, overwhelmed. Okay. All right. So kind of got like a whole range of emotions here, which is great. Okay. So next thing, our goal for today, it's super simple. Like I said, I want to make sure that you leave this webinar feeling like you know what your next steps are. So I want you to wrap this up and in your head think, I know exactly what my next step is, or I know what questions to ask for the future. So that's really the overall goal here. Um, we're really talking about all of the mistakes that first-time homebuyers make because there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are completely innocent. People don't know, you don't know what you don't know. So I want to make sure you leave here not only knowing what to do, but I want to make sure that you leave here knowing what not to do. So it's almost just as important to know what not to do as it is to know what to do. So I want to make sure you understand what questions you need to be asking. And I want you just way more confident in this process. So again, hello, my name is Carrie Corcoran. A little backstory. I am a wife, a mother of 4 kids. I am a full-time real estate nerd. I like to joke, so I love everything about real estate. My husband is a real estate photographer, so a little fun fact, but our poor kids, all they do is hear about real estate all the time. So dinner time, we're talking about real estate. They hear us talk about it in the morning, just kind of all the time. So interestingly enough, none of them have an interest in being in our line of work. I think because they hear about it so much, they're just like, no, I don't want to do what you do. So, but we both love it, and we feel really blessed to have the careers that we do. So I started in real estate in 2011, and if anybody knows about the years leading up to 2011, they were not great. It was during the recession when everything we were just coming out of the recession, I guess you would say. But everything in that '08 timeframe, it was really not great. So the market was tough. I learned in a very, very down market when no one was buying or selling. I like to joke that I in like 2011, no one's doing anything with real estate, and I'm like, I should be a realtor. Like this sounds like a really solid life plan. I should go all in on being a realtor. So the one of the really positive things that came out of it, I learned in a very, very down market where you had to, I mean, it was hard to get clients, it was hard to get deals closed, there were a lot of short sales, it was a lot of not fun stuff. The flip side to that is it really taught me how to have longevity in this career and how to really, really serve my clients. So fast forward, I have now been in the top 1% nationwide in our company. I've sold over $90 million in real estate year to date. I've trained dozens of new agents, and most importantly, I have helped tons of first-time home buyers like you find their dream home and feel confident in the whole buying process. So if this is your first time doing it, you're in the absolute right place. If maybe you bought years ago and this is your first time kind of coming back and reintroducing yourself to it, so much has changed in our industry. We actually had a huge change in August of 2023. A new law went into effect that kind of rocked our industry a little bit. Okay, so want you to meet the team a little bit. Now I'm going to be the one here with you tonight. Again, my name is Carrie, but I don't do this alone. I actually have a phenomenal team that I work with. I built a team so that every single client gets top-notch service. That is really my goal. I want to make sure that when people go through this process, they leave it feeling that they are very confident in the decision that they made. This is a huge, huge purchase, and some people do it once in a lifetime. So our job is to make sure that you know everything about the process, you're informed, you're making the decisions, you don't leave here with any question marks. So I really, really encourage people, ask all the questions, and we will do a phenomenal job giving you over information, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want. So my job is as a team leader. What that means is I will be your coach, your advocate, your strategist. I will get you from start to finish. I handle all the negotiations, all the big picture planning. I make sure we're always 2 steps ahead of everything that's going on. And my job is to make sure that you feel supported throughout the entire process. Again, some people do this once in a lifetime. It is our job to make sure that it is a good experience for you. And if for some reason it's not, we did not do our job. So we really, really, we love our clients. I always joke when we get to the closing table, like, I just want everybody to come to Christmas dinner afterwards because like, I really, like relationships, this is such a relationship business that building those relationships is really key to having a smooth transaction. And I always want to make sure after you're done, you always feel comfortable coming back and asking questions after the fact. So it's not like we close and then we never see you again. We want to make sure we're your real estate advisors for life. So we're here for the long haul. Katie. So Katie is our showing agent. She is phenomenal. So Katie is the one who makes sure that we never miss a listing coming on the market. I always joke that she stalks the MLS, and her job is to make sure that we do not miss any opportunities with you whatsoever. So a little bit about how we work is if we're getting your search started, we will get on a group chat, the three of us and or four of us if there's two buyers there or multiple buyers, however many there. We'll have everybody on a group chat with our search criteria. Once we have it set up, we will go ahead. The first time we go out, I like to be the one to go out for the first time. Sometimes that doesn't happen and Katie beats me to the punch. That's okay. Again, her job is to make sure that we're not missing any opportunities. We stay on that group chat throughout the entire process. And then anytime that we have a house that you want to see or you have questions about or anything, Katie's job is to go make sure we get all the information for you. And then make sure to set up the showings and, have feedback and everything like that. So as soon as we're done with the showing, she is calling me and giving me an update or texting me an update or something. So I know exactly what happened at that showing. The running joke is she hates everything about the real estate process when it comes to like the contracts, the writing the offers, the negotiations, all that sort of stuff. It's everything I love. So we make a really good, we have a really good balance here. And she's amazing at listening to what it is that you're looking for, making sure that we're going out and finding any of those opportunities. Now we're interesting in our market in that we have something called a preview. Think of like a coming soon. We're not allowed to have a listing without putting it in the MLS and making sure that everybody has an opportunity to see that it's there, even if you're not ready to go live on the market. So we can't like, have like these pocket listings anymore and not let people know about it and try to broker them out to other brokers. We have to make sure that it's a fair marketplace for everybody. Now, while it's in preview, we're not allowed to show it, but we can let you know, hey, this property is going to be coming on the market. You may want to give like a little drive-by to it. Again, we won't be able to show it until it's live, but Katie's job is to make sure we're not missing any opportunities. And I promise you this process can go so quickly, especially if we ever get into a competitive market or if you're in a very competitive price point. So time is really of the essence. And her job is to make sure that, kind of like what should I call her? She's like a home matchmaker ninja, we'll call her. So I can't think of something better. But she's amazing. Okay. So Tessa is our transaction coordinator. And what that means is throughout the entire transaction, there is a ton of paperwork. There are timelines. There's communication that has to happen with title. There's communication that has to happen between the brokers. There's addendums going back and forth, all that stuff. Tessa's job, she's kind of the behind the scenes glue that holds everything together when it comes to all of the contractual terms and making sure that we are in compliance. So, I always joke that her job is to keep me out of real estate jail. And what I mean when I say that is that she is supposed to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and everything's where it needs to be. So when we're completely done, we have a complete file. Everybody got everything they needed, everything signed. It is a fully complete file. So she's incredible. You will hear from her throughout the process in an email. She's never going to call you. She works very behind the scenes, and she is phenomenal at what she does. So we love Tessa to pieces. We love Katie to pieces. Together, we make a really, really good team. Now, throughout the process, I have a client portal that I set my clients up on. So anytime there's a document that's getting signed, it's going to be in your portal. Your timeline is going to be in there. Tessa will send you a detailed timeline once we're under contract so that you know exactly what to expect along the way and what all the terms of your contract are. We will, as you're crossing milestones, your little client portal will send you updates and then you'll get a weekly update automatically just showing where everything's at. So our job is to make sure that you have all the information possible. I never want there to be question marks at all. So we throw a lot at you and I tell people it's kind of your job to decide what you want to keep and what you don't. And if there's something really important, we'll make sure that you know it. I'd rather you have too much information and slough out what you don't want than, feel like we didn't give you enough information along the way. Okay, so a little bit personal. What is my why? Like, why do I do this? It sounds very cheesy, but in one word, it's my family. My husband and I are both business owners. We both run small businesses. We wake up every day. The joke with small business owners is we wake up every day unemployed and we have to go out and we have to earn our business every single day. So we work really, really hard. We're very proud of the life that we have, and we deliver excellent customer service to our clients, both in his world and mine. And I think that's becoming kind of a lost art, in my opinion. Everything, the personal touch with everything is kind of going away anymore. So being able to build those relationships is very, very important. I'm not in this for a quick transaction or a quick sale. I know there are a lot of brokers out there that are very transactional and it serves them very well, and that's great. My business has been built on relationships. So the relationship with my client is one of the most important sacred things to me. It is an honor to be able to work for my clients. And so when they choose us among a sea of, thousands of other realtors that they could choose from, it really is an honor to be able to work with them. So I'm very thankful for my clients. I am thankful that they continue to use us over and over again, and that they refer us out to their family and friends. So it's one of the greatest compliments you could get as a small business owner. Okay, so I have a huge passion for first-time home buyers. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I really do. There is something special about that first-time home buyer or somebody who hasn't done it in a long time. There's an excitement that you just can't duplicate because you're nervous, you don't know what to expect. Everything's very new to you, but it can also be very, very scary. So my job is to eliminate all of the scary stuff and make sure that we, again, focus on the excitement of it, because this is a really, really big deal. So we actually have a personal mission to help 10 first-time home buyers every single year. Now, it doesn't mean we want to help 10 buyers. We want to help all the buyers. We want to help all the buyers, all the sellers, that sort of stuff. But first-time home buyers, we want to make sure that we are helping 10 people every single year at minimum make that first step into home ownership and building generational wealth. So for some of you, you may be the first person in your family to buy a home. That's huge. And I can't tell you how many people come from a family of generational renters, which is great. And they are the first ones to go ahead and take that step into homeownership. And I mean, that is something to really, really be proud of. So it's scary, but it's also, I mean, it's such an honor to be able to help somebody go through that process. So again, love what I do, love first-time home buyers. And I think there's no greater way to build generational wealth than through real estate. Okay, so client testimonials. So before we jump in, I just want you to hear some of the experiences that clients of ours had. So Emily is our first one. She said, Carrie was absolutely wonderful to work with. She was available to us, always responded promptly, got us in to see the houses quickly, and wrote our deal effectively so that we did not miss efficiently. Sorry, I can't read. Wrote our deal efficiently so we didn't miss our opportunity. And she took the time to explain things in a way that made sense and helped us feel empowered to make decisions confidently. This was a really special purchase experience for my clients. I loved working with them. They were actually engaged, and they've since gotten married, and they're starting their life in their new home. It was kind of a long process because they weren't quite sure if they wanted to buy, if they wanted to keep renting. There was just a lot of new going on. And so to be a part of that was incredible. We actually wound up finding a house that had been under contract before. Came back on the market because of a sale fail, and we were able to get them some really, really good terms. And it was right when interest rates were going higher and higher. And so when interest rates go higher, unfortunately, your buying power diminishes a bit. We were able to find them an incredible house that wasn't too far away from where their family lives. So it was a very fun sale. Okay. So Victoria said, we love Carrie and the Corcoran team. They did all the hard work so we didn't have to, and they took charge and made life so easy for us. My favorite part was the communication. We never felt confused or overwhelmed. That is one of the hugest compliments, in my opinion, that we communicated so effectively that they didn't feel like they had any question marks. We actually talked to them after closing about, was there anything that we can do to improve? And they were like, no, everything. It was a phenomenal experience. Victoria and her husband, they have since had a little baby. And so it's really neat to see that journey. One of the coolest things with our clients is the majority of the time as they're having these life experiences afterwards, they share them with us. And so I think that's really special to be able to, see people's life journeys and how their family is growing. Or we have people that are just, they live by themselves and you just get to see kind of the evolution of their life and things that they've done to the house. We love seeing all of it. So, Curtis is our next one. So Curtis and his wife Taylor, I've actually helped them a couple of times. They were purchasing, their very first time they were purchasing was during what I call the COVID craziness. It was in that, 2020 timeframe where what was the running joke? Houses were going quicker than toilet paper, sort of thing. So Curtis says, Carrie is beyond helpful in giving advice. She coordinated open houses, visits, inspections, negotiations, everything we needed, even during a crazy market. So I cannot stress how crazy the market was when they were trying to buy and how competitive their price point was. And they had a very specific area that they wanted to be in. Curtis and Taylor, I love them to pieces. I think I already said they since have had a baby also. And so I get to see updates on how things are going. They bought a property that they are completely overhauling and remodeling. They took it down to the studs and it's a really, really cool process. So they're sharing updates periodically, sending me baby pictures afterwards to like show, their kiddo in the house and stuff. So again, it's a huge honor to, be updated after the fact that, people think of us. So, all right. So let's dive into the good stuff. The next section is where we're going to walk you through all of the full buying process and help you avoid all of the big mistakes first-time home buyers make. And like I said before, there's a lot of them and a lot of them are very innocent. You don't realize that you're making the mistake. It seems like you're doing something that should be helping, and sometimes it can be something that's hurting. So let's put our learning hats on now. So home buyer map. So just kind of talking through what the home buyer journey looks like. So think of it as an 11-step process. So step one, you decide to buy. That's the biggest one. Step two, you're going to get pre-approved. You're going to have a buyer consultation. You're going to start your search. Step five, we're going to learn the market. We are going to make an offer. We will negotiate that offer. And then we will have our transaction timeline determined. We will finalize your financing, then we close, and then you move in. So sounds simple, right? No big deal. Okay, but each one of these steps, it really is, it plays a really, really critical role. So you want to make sure that you don't skip any of these steps, and we'll talk about why all of them are important. So step one, deciding to buy. So sorry, a little bit of an itch here. Okay, so deciding to buy, it seems like the obvious first step, right? Like, how would you move forward if you hadn't made the decision to buy? But it's really about your mindset. So it's not so much, hey, I've made the decision to buy. It's like, what does that mean to you as a buyer? Are you ready to actually, start this journey? Do you know why you want to buy a home? There's lots of reasons. Maybe you're sick of renting. Maybe you're looking for some stability. You want to start building, generational wealth, like we were talking about, instead of paying somebody else's mortgage. So buying a house is very, very personal. There's lots of reasons that you make that first step to buy your home. So, and I always like to know what that why is, because that really helps kind of shape the way that we approach your purchase as well. So just any insight is always very, very helpful. All right, so step two, getting approved. I cannot stress how important this step is. It's probably one of the most critical steps in the entire thing. I mean, obviously you can't buy unless you're going to be a cash buyer, you can't buy without getting pre-approved, but your pre-approval really outlines our buying power and tells us what parameters we can search within. So what loan type we're going to be using. If you're going to be using like a down payment assistance type loan, like a USDA, we'll get into that later. But if you're going to use something like a USDA loan, that's location specific. So really knowing what type of loan you're going to be utilizing and what your buying power is, it's really critical for us being able to even start your search. So, The old kind of thought process that used to be out there, and there's a lot of people that still try to utilize this, is I'm going to find the house that I like, and then I'm going to go through the process of getting pre-approved. Because what if I never find anything? Like, I don't want to go through the process of getting pre-approved and then not find something. So I will tell you, we do not start showing a home until we have that pre-approval secured. And the reason being, a couple things. One, put yourself in the shoes of a seller. You are asked to leave your home for somebody to come in and view it. And then you find out later, hey, that person was never even qualified to um, purchase the home. So you went through the process of getting your house ready, making sure that it looked nice, making arrangements. If you have kids, getting them out of the house. If you have pets, getting them out of the house and leaving for a duration of time so that somebody can come walk through your home. Just kind of imagine how frustrating that would be if you found out they weren't even qualified to come in and you did all of that work for nothing. So there are a lot of agents. I know personally, when I have a listing, if somebody's asking for a showing, one of the questions I'm asking is your buyer pre-approved? Because I want to know that they've taken that step before I turn around and ask my client to go ahead and vacate the property for a showing. So the other part is, what if you find a house and you absolutely love it, and then you find out that it's outside of your price point? That's a really disappointing scenario. And it's not something I want you to experience. So the other piece is, and this would be one of the hardest things for buyers, is if you wind up not getting pre-approved and you're looking too high on your price point, and then you find out, hey, you weren't qualified for any of those to begin with. It eliminates a whole bunch of homes. One of the worst things that can happen is if you are actually looking too low. And this can happen where people think, oh, I'm not going to be qualified for more than this amount here. And so they just kind of, you know, they discount a lot of the properties that maybe they did qualify for. So having that pre-approval is really, really critical. And again, our practice is that we don't go out and start showing buyers homes that don't have a pre-approval. One, it's not really ethical on our part to show homes to buyers and have the sellers leave. But two, it's in your best interest to make sure that we're shopping in that appropriate price range. Okay, so buyer consultation, step 3. This is where we meet and go over the full process. Now, when we meet to have the buyer consultation, there's a chance you may not have done your pre-approval yet, and that's okay. We don't need your we don't need your pre-approval when we're doing the buyer consultation, but we need to know that that's going to be part of the process. So sometimes, this is the only one that I'm okay if it's a little bit out of order, but we're going to meet, we're going to talk about the full process. We're going to talk about all the loan types, your ideal home, your budget, what you can expect throughout the entire process. It's also where we talk about the buyer representation agreement, which sounds scary, but I promise it's not. It just ensures that I can legally represent you throughout the transaction and advocate on your behalf. And that goes back to that law that I was talking about that came into effect in August 2023. So buyer consultation is your time to ask any of the questions that you may have. You may have questions after we're done. That's okay. But it's basically your time to find out everything that is specific to your home buying journey and kind of set us up on the right track. Okay, so step 4, starting your search. This is where all the fun begins. Once we've nailed down your pre-approval and goals, we're going to start your home shopping. So kind of like we talked about earlier, this is where Katie's going to wind up coming in. Once we have your criteria set up, we're going to start that group chat where we're going to introduce Katie. We're all going to be on that thread throughout the entire process. And then again, when a good property pops up, Katie's going to go ahead and jump in there and make sure that we're getting you in the door as soon as possible. And then if you wind up finding something that you want to write on, I always joke that Katie kind of steps back and she lurks in the background on our group chat, and I step in and start taking things over. Where my super strength is negotiating on your behalf, writing a strong contract, and making sure that we're positioning you in a way that really sets you apart from other buyers. Now, okay, so step 5 is going to be learning the market. And that may seem silly, like, well, the market's the market. Well, markets change and shift so much. We go from a buyer's market to a seller's market to maybe a more flat market, which is even on both the buyer and the seller side. So knowing what our market is doing, especially what it's doing within the price point that you're shopping in, it's really, really critical to our approach. So with interest rates changing, inventory changing, competition, we're going to talk through all of that to make sure you know what to expect when it comes time to write an offer. So, are homes flying off the market? Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? And then we're going to talk through what the best plan of action is for your offer. So, step 6, making the offer. This is the part I get excited about. Okay, so once we've found the home that you want to write on, that's going to be the time we start crafting your offer. And this is where everything kind of it's where it gets really real. We're going to work together to put together an offer that is strong, competitive, and is tailored to the current market and to your specific situation. So we're going to go over everything like your offer, your contingencies, your closing timelines, whether or not to ask for seller credits. Writing an offer is not a one size fits all, in my opinion. It is very specific to the person and to, everything that makes up their purchase. So if that is, maybe like I said before, maybe you're looking with like a USDA loan and you need to be looking geographically in a certain area. Maybe you want to be close to family, or you want to be close to a certain, point of interest, something like that. And we need to be searching in a specific area, but there's also things we need to take into consideration in those areas. All of that is going to be stuff that we work together to figure out in your offer. So it's going to be very collaborative to figure out what suits you best, but also what terms are going to be acceptable to a seller. So step 7, again, love this part, negotiating your offer. So once we get the offer submitted, that's when I jump into negotiation mode and, really advocate on your behalf. Sometimes we get our offer accepted right away, which is amazing. Other times there's going to be a counter offer and we're going to go back and forth until we come to an agreement on terms. One of the things that I cannot stress enough is our business is so relationship focused. And I don't just mean that on the client side, I also mean that on the broker side. So you heard me say before that I train new agents for a few years. And one of the things that I would stress to them is Salem feels like a big market. Marion County feels like a big market. Willamette Valley feels like a big market. I promise you it is not that big when it comes down to the agents that you will be working with. We have a couple thousand agents in our market, but I will say there is a handful of us that do the vast majority of the deals in our market. We work really, really hard to have great relationships with other brokers. My running joke was don't be a jerk, because if you're on the other side of a transaction and you make things really, really, really difficult, I'm going to remember that. And you're going to remember if you were working with a really difficult agent, and you're going to keep that in mind next time that agent comes to the table and you have a listing and you're presented with, different options, and you're going to be like, "Ooh, these may be better terms, but this is going to be a really, really challenging transaction because this agent has a history of making it very, very difficult for the seller." So it's kind of one of those, you got to play nice in the sandbox sort of thing, but we both have to represent our clients to the best of our ability because we have to protect your interests. That's our job, and make sure that we get you the best terms. But also those relationships are so important. There are times we work so hard to have good relationships with other brokers in our market. There have literally been times where our offer is not the strongest, but the agent on the other end knows that I'm going to present them with a very smooth transaction. I've got my buyer hooked up with a great lender. My buyer's educated in everything that needs to go on with the process. My buyer is not going to make the entire process painfully difficult for the seller on the other end. We're all going to work together to get everybody to the closing table. So there are times we haven't been the strongest offer, but we have such a great reputation with other brokers in our market that they choose us over somebody else because they know it's going to be a good experience for their seller. And ultimately it's going to get them where they want to go. So negotiation, that's one of my favorite parts. But this is where an experienced agent really, really is critical to making sure that you're represented the best that you can be. So step 8, transaction calendar. So this is where Tessa comes back in, where she is going to send you it's called a little transaction timeline. You're going to get a sheet after we're under contract that says, "Congratulations, you're under contract. Here's your transaction timeline." It's going to outline everything. It's going to say when your earnest money is going to be due, when our inspection time frame is up, what our closing date is, all of the critical timelines. Tessa will have that in there. It'll go out to you, and you will, that's going to be kind of what you go off throughout the whole transaction. So we also talked about that client portal. everything will be uploaded to your client portal throughout the entire process. And so if there's a document that was signed or was presented to you or anything like that, it will be in that client portal. Again, you'll get a weekly update, but then you'll also be notified every single time there's a change made to that portal, whether it be that we crossed a milestone, a document was added, maybe there was a term that changed, any of that sort of stuff, it's all going to be there. So again, we go back to wanting to make sure you have all the information possible, and that you are, armed with all the tools and information to feel very confident in your offer and not have any question marks out there. So we really like to keep everything super, super crystal clear and transparent, because I think that just ultimately leads to a great experience for our clients. Step 9, finalizing the finance. So this is where your lender is very, very critical. One, we already have their pre-approval. Once we get under contract, we're going to send them a copy of the contract so that they can get to work on your loan. But your lender is going to be working very diligently behind the scenes. They're going to be ordering your appraisal. They're going to be submitting your file to underwriting. They're going to be verifying income and assets and everything. Once the appraisal comes in, if there's any remaining conditions, they're going to communicate with you and myself, and we're going to work through all of those. But what I tell people throughout the process, please be kind to your lender. If they have a request for something, get it over to them in a timely manner, because timelines are so critical in this process. So timeliness is really, really crucial. So if they're asking you for something, even if you've already given it to them a couple times, just send it to them again. They're not asking to be difficult. They're asking because it's going to be quicker to ask you than it is to go find it. And it doesn't happen very often that maybe they can't find something you've already given to them. But if it does, just resend it. One of the easiest things you can do is the documents they're asking you for, if you just want to keep them in a little folder on your computer, and then if they ever need it, you can just go grab it and send it off really quickly. That's fine. One of the most common ones is they need updated bank statements, or they may need updated like pay stubs or payoffs or any of that sort of stuff. So again, be nice to your lender. If they're asking you for something, just please give it to them. They're not trying to be difficult. What we are going to be waiting for throughout the process from your lender is to hear that they have issued final approval and that they're sending you your closing disclosure. Now, this closing disclosure is a electronic document that will come. It will outline all of the terms of your loan, and it is so crucial that this thing be reviewed and initialed right away. Some require initial, some require signing. So whatever it is, what that document does is, after the recession and all the real estate craziness that happened, back in 2008, there was something called TRID that came about, and basically what it is that document, once it's signed, it starts a 3-day right of rescission, meaning that it's a cooling off period. So you have your document, you have signed it, you've agreed to all the terms, you know what your payment's going to be, you know what all the fees are. And then you have a 72-hour wait period before you can go in and sign loan documents. So if we're crowding that closing date and you haven't signed that CD yet, we run the risk of having to go to the seller and ask to extend, which we don't want to do. So most lenders will try to get this out as soon as possible. Some of them, whatever their guidelines are, maybe they can't get it out until, like 4 days before. But whatever it is, when they send you that closing disclosure, you want to make sure that you go in, you review it. If you have any questions or if there's anything that's not correct, you need to identify it right away. And then as soon as you're happy with it, you need to sign it so that clock can start. We're really kind of dead in the water for that 72 hours after. We can't do anything moving forward until we've passed that time frame. Okay, so step number 10, closing. So before we close, after you get your closing disclosure, we will have what's called an estimated settlement statement that will come to you to review, and that should mirror what is in your closing disclosure, meaning the document, or I'm sorry, the amount that you're supposed to bring to closing. You're going to sign that sometimes, at minimum the day before closing. Sometimes it's a couple days before based on what our timelines are looking like. But once everything's signed, it has to be sent back to the lender for them to review before they're authorized to go ahead and release the funds. So we'll have your appointment down at title. Title cannot schedule you until they have your loan documents from your lender. Again, your lender can't send documents until we're past that 3-day waiting period. So that goes back to how important timeframes are. Once everything is authorized and the funds are authorized by the lender to be sent, we have what's called notification that we are released to record, which the lender will get, I'm sorry, the title company will get. And then once we've recorded and funded, what we're waiting to hear for is, I'm sorry, once we've funded, we're waiting to hear that we've recorded at the county. And so the words we're looking for is, we're recorded and funded and everything's done. And so what we will do then is whatever the terms of the contract are, meaning sometimes you'll take possession 5 p.m. on the day of closing. Sometimes there's occupancy after closing that has been negotiated and the seller will be there for a couple of days. Whatever that picture looks like, the possession will happen based on the terms of the contract, which leads us to step number 11, moving in. So again, depending on what was negotiated in the contract, you'll either get your keys the day of closing, or shortly after, but again, it'll all be in the contract and it'll be clearly communicated to you and agreed upon beforehand. So now we're going to go ahead and step into the biggest mistakes. Now that we've kind of gone through all of the process, we're going to jump into the biggest mistakes that home buyers make. Again, if you have questions about anything we just talked about, I hope you're putting it in the group chat and asking all your questions and getting them answered. If there's questions you have afterwards, again, please feel free to go ahead and shoot me an email. Okay, so now we're moving on to the biggest mistake that home buyers make. We've talked through all of the steps for the home buying process. Again, if you had questions, I hope you've been throwing them in the chat, or if you just are kind of making notes, you want to send them to me afterwards, that's completely fine too. We'll make sure that my email's in the chat so you can go ahead and reach out to me that way. So let's talk about the biggest mistakes that we see home buyers make and how avoiding them can not only save you money, it'll save you stress, missed opportunities. There's really 7 big ones that we kind of identify here, and we're going to go through each of them. And we're going to start with the most common one, which is not getting pre-approved. You remember we were talking about that pre-approval earlier and how critical that is? Again, I'm going to circle back on that. We see this all the time. People start looking at houses before they talk to a lender. They fall in love with a house and then they're just not able to do anything with it for whatever. I mean, sometimes it's, one, you don't qualify. It may be that you need to clean up your credit. It may be that you need to pay something off. Sometimes you just need time on a job. Sometimes you need longer credit history. I mean, there's a myriad of things that it could be. But we really need to make sure that what your buying power is before you try to go out and start writing offers on a home or even looking at a home. So once again, we actually do not show homes unless we have that pre-approval in hand, and that really is in your best interest. So loan types. So this is why your pre-approval is so powerful. You really need to understand your loan type. There's 4 main ones. There's conventional, there's FHA, there's VA, and USDA. Those are the most common ones that we see in our market. So with conventional, this type of loan is going to be great if you have strong credit, you have a bit of a down payment, and you either, depending on how much you're putting down, don't have to carry mortgage insurance on the property, or you can remove it after a period of time. Let's see, FHA is the other one. This is great if you have a little bit of a lower credit score and it allows a lower down payment. The mortgage insurance does, however, stick with you through the life of the loan, and that can be, it's a percentage of the loan amount. So sometimes it can be a couple $100s. So that mortgage insurance will not fall off until you refinance into a conventional loan. Every FHA loan now has to have mortgage insurance attached to it. So again, you'll talk with your lender about what makes the most sense. Sometimes FHA, there's been times FHA rates make more sense than conventional loans, or I'm sorry, FHA loans make more sense than conventional loans, even though you may have stronger lending potential with the conventional loan. Maybe the rates are better with an FHA one, even with the mortgage insurance. So again, strategically, you and your lender will figure that out. VA, if you are a veteran, first and foremost, thank you for your service. We appreciate you. And VA loans are an amazing way to thank veterans for serving our country. They offer incredible terms, 0 down payment, and there's no mortgage insurance with it. So if you are a VA eligible buyer, work with your lender. And again, we want to make sure that you're working with a lender that has experience with VA loans because there are nuances there that can be a little different from conventional or FHA. USDA, if you are buying in a rural area, this really is designed for properties outside of major cities. So it is going to be income specific, meaning you can't make over a certain amount, but it's also going to be um, population specific, meaning there can't be over a certain amount of people living in that city. So it is designed to serve rural buyers. So if you're looking like in the Willamette Valley, places like Salem, they would be disqualified. Places like Kaiser, that would be disqualified because there's too many people in that city and it exceeds the population limit. So each of these loans comes with pros and cons. You're going to work with your lender to determine which one is the best one for you. And that really also is going to guide us when we come to the time of making the offer, because there's some properties that won't qualify for FHA loan. They've got a little bit stricter guidelines. VA loans have a little bit stricter guidelines on the appraisal side. So basically your loan type is going to help us determine where we're going to be looking, what type of property we're going to be looking at too. Okay, so we're going to take a quick little pause. I know loan types can feel a little overwhelming. So if you've got questions, this is a great time to pop them into the chat. Again, even if you're watching this on a replay, let's go ahead and have you jot those down and feel free to send them to me if you have any questions. And remember, a fraction of this is what I want you to take away from today. So I know I'm really, really throwing a lot at you. So, okay. So again, throw any questions in there. We're monitoring the chat, so we'll make sure to get your questions answered. Okay. All right. So mistake number 2. Remember when we were talking about on the loan side, getting the loan put together, the loan documents put together quickly for the lender. So if they're asking you for them, get them over to them very, very quickly. That is a super, super, super common mistake we see people make and eventually your lender will reach out to us and say, hey, I've been asking them for this for like 4 days and we're kind of at a standstill until we get it. So if the lender asks for something, please get it back to them. The slower the response, the higher the risk is that we're going to go ahead and draw out your loan and draw out your process. And if it goes too far, you do run the risk of having the seller say, never mind, I've hung in as long as I can. I'm going to go find myself a different buyer. That sounds dramatic, but it has happened. And so if all of a sudden the lender gets to the point where they're at a standstill because they're not getting documents from you, they're going to have to communicate that to us, and we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to move the loan along as quick as possible, because there is a contract time frame that we are held to. So again, I get it, paperwork isn't fun. I mean, I love paperwork, but I know people don't like going and digging for all of those things. Your lender's not asking it to be difficult. They're asking it because they need it to be able to qualify you for the loan. So mistake number 3, this is a huge one. And a lot of times it happens very innocently, like people don't realize, oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to do that. But you will hear us say repeatedly, your lender will say it, I will say it. Do not, under any circumstances, take on any new debt while you're going through your pre-approval process or buying your home. So I seriously cannot stress that enough. Even if it feels like it's one of those things that's like, 0% down for, 0% for the first 12 months, no payments for 12 months, whatever that is, that still is going to be calculated on your debt to income. So no new cars, no new furniture, no new credit cards, no co-signing for your brother's jet ski or family members, whatever, nothing. You do not do anything that could affect your credit at all throughout this process. So funny story, I actually was showing a home to some buyers of mine. We've been looking for a while, and all of a sudden I show up to the showing and here they pull up in a brand new vehicle with beautiful brand new dealer plates on it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I take a little picture, send it to their lender, and I said, do you want to play a fun game? It's called Who Got a New Car? And they're like, oh my goodness. And so we got inside and I was like, hey, so good to see you guys. what's that in the driveway? And they're like, oh, isn't it great? We decided we've been doing so good. We just wanted to, kind of treat ourselves. And I'm like, that's amazing. Now we have to call your lender. And so thankfully it wound up being, I mean, they totally lucked out. This would not be the case for like 99% of the people out there, but they wound up lucking out. They had zero debt that they were carrying at the time. They both had phenomenal income. So in the price point that they were looking at, this thankfully didn't impact them negatively, but it could have blown the entire thing up. We have seen people who, um, oh goodness, someone went out and got a new set of couches before closing. That's a very, very common one. People go get furniture right before closing. They're like, I've signed my documents and everything's great. We're going to go get some new furniture. Well, your lender can technically repull your credit up until right before closing. And if all of a sudden there's a new debt on there, they literally have no choice. If it exceeds the debt to income, I mean, they have to go back and rerun stuff and everything, make sure you're not going to exceed that debt to income. And if you do, it could potentially disqualify you from being able to move forward. So changing jobs is our next one. I'm not kidding when I say there have been people who have come to the closing table and they make a statement like, I'm so excited, I just put in my 2 weeks notice. It's like, what? What do you mean you put in your 2 weeks notice? And if the escrow officer hears that, or if we hear that, I mean, we have to, ethically, we have to make sure that your lender knows about that. And it has disqualified people from loans before, because part of your loan eligibility is your income. And so another common thing people do is they change a job. Like, oh, I just quit over here and I started over here. Please do not do any of that during the course of buying a home. This sounds like it's not that big of a deal, especially if you're replacing income for income. But when a underwriter is looking at your loan eligibility, they're looking at your job history and they want to make sure that you're secure in what you're doing, so there's no risk of you losing your income. Now, in certain instances, and talk with your lender, full disclosure, I am not a lender. I'm not giving lending advice. I have to just tell you to talk to your lender about all of this, but there are certain instances where there can be like a letter of explanation if you're going from like one job to another where it's a transferable skill. So like if you're working, in medical billing and you're moving over to another office where you're doing medical billing, but it's, maybe it's a different company, talk to your lender, see if that's something that you're able to do. They do understand that life happens and there's some opportunities that just kind of come to your lap and it's a really good opportunity for you. So let them help you work through that. Don't just go change your job because your lender's going to find out, and they do what's called a VOE. It's a verification of employment. And if all of a sudden they call up one more time, like, hey, just want to make sure that, Bob still works over at the mill. And they're like, no, he left last week. That's a really, really big problem. So even a small change, like say you've always been guaranteed overtime and suddenly you're cut back a few hours a week, that sometimes those margins are so small that can disqualify you. So again, no big changes to your income, your job status, your job location, anything you are doing, over communicate please to your lender so that they can tell you what the best move is. Okay, so mistake number 5, opening or closing a credit card. So the mindset that people have when it comes to closing a credit card is, it's great. I'm closing it, like I'm eliminating some potential debt opportunities that could be out there by closing the credit card. Well, part of what makes up your eligibility is, again, I'm not a lender, talk to your lender, have to say, I'm not giving lending advice. But part of what makes up your eligibility is your loan history. How long have you had that credit card? Have you had it for 6 months? Have you had it for 6 years? So length of the time of open credit is one thing. And then they're going to calculate your total debt to income, meaning how much debt do you have every single month versus how much income are you bringing in? And part of that is calculated by how much available borrowing power do you have that you're not utilizing. So maybe you have like, $20,000 in credit card limits, but you're only using maybe 2. If you were to close one of those cards and it eliminates 5%, or I'm sorry, $5,000, you're now increasing how much of a percentage of your available debt that you're utilizing. And if you get above a certain threshold, it could wind up impacting your loan eligibility or your interest rate. So while it seems like you're doing something good and harmless by closing a credit card, it actually can wind up biting you in the butt. On the flip side, please do not go open up any credit cards because, again, it goes back to that credit card history. I've had people who have said, well, I thought if I went and got a $10,000 credit card, it would increase my available loan borrowing power. What word am I thinking of? It would impact their debt to income, but it would also impact like their percentage of credit utilization. Sorry, I can't say that. Percentage of credit utilization. And they're thinking like, well, I just added $10,000 more. It's like, well, great, but you just added a new credit card, which shows you don't have a history of not using that available credit, because that is part of what makes it up. So don't open anything, don't close anything. Everybody's happy. Okay, number 6. This is an interesting one because we are very unique in Oregon. In other states, a lot of other states, you're required to have a home inspection as part of your purchase. Oregon is really unique in that inspections are elective here in our state, meaning you technically could go buy a home and not have a home inspection done on it, and there's no requirement forcing you to do so. So while they are elective, as we're going through the process, I'm going to say, would you like a home inspection? And I'm going to be nodding my head yes. Obviously, I can't force you to have a home inspection. It is in your best interest to have that inspection. Now, when we had all the COVID craziness that was happening where people were just like throwing offers, 40,000 above list and, I'll waive everything, I still was advising my buyers, have the home inspection. Even if you say you're taking it as is, have it for informational purposes only, meaning in the event that you find something, you're not going to ask them for any repairs, but you have to decide if you're comfortable with what those repairs may potentially be. So this still protects you in the sense that if you have an inspection for informational purposes only, you're telling the seller, hey, I'm not going to come ask you for anything, but I want to make sure I'm getting exactly what I think I am. So this is kind of your one shot to like look under the hood, so to speak. So if you waive that, you do not have any recourse if all of a sudden you find out the foundation was cracking and the house is going to fall down next week, or you close on it and you find out that there was a big material defect with the house. You don't have any recourse with that seller because you waived that inspection. So please, please, please have it for informational purposes only. If you're saying that you don't want to ask for repairs, but if it's not one of those instances where you're going to be waiving any sort of repair requests, home inspections are the best like $500 that you'll spend throughout the transaction, and it can avoid a very, very costly repair that you would be taking on if you hadn't had that inspection. So a $400, $500 inspection could save you from having to pay for like a $15,000 brand new HVAC or something of that nature. So, okay, number 7, and this seems like a very obvious one, but this is a mistake that we see people making all the time. Not asking questions, not coming to us and saying, I don't understand what this means. People very quickly go to, oh, I don't want to look silly not knowing what this is here that, she's asking me about or she wants me to sign or anything like that. I cannot have you sign something that you don't understand. And I can't stress that enough. I do not want you signing anything unless you are completely comfortable with it. This is a legally binding contract. And again, this is one of the hugest purchases you will ever make in your lifetime. I need you to understand what it is that you're doing and what you're signing to and what you're agreeing to. And if you have questions about the process, I would rather you ask me 50 times and be completely settled with it than not ask and get to the closing table and be like, oh man, I'm going to cross my fingers and really hope this is going to work out. I need you to ask me questions. It is my job to be your resource, and it is your job to ask me questions. So a very, very huge mistake people make is not asking questions. Again, I say this all the time. I do this every day. This kind of becomes old hat to us after a certain period of time. For you, you're not supposed to know what you're doing. It is your job to come ask me questions so that we make sure you know everything there is to know about your purchase. So just kind of recapping what we discussed today. All right, so we talked through the 11 steps of the home buying process. We talked about how to get pre-approved and what each loan type means. We introduced my amazing team, who I love to pieces. And we covered the 7 most common mistakes that homebuyers make and how to avoid them. So whether you're ready to buy in 30 days or 3 years, this information should give you a really, really good roadmap. And you can always come back to it too. As I said before, I love it when people ask me questions, so please ask away. And when you're ready to move forward, I'm here. So, Couple things I want to ask. My turn to ask you questions. So I'd like you to drop in the chat the answers to these questions. So first one, do you feel that this was time well spent? These questions are really going to help us understand if we're providing good content to our potential buyers, and really helps us, learn in the future if there's something else that we should be covering. So question number one, either drop it in the chat, say it out loud. Do you feel that this was time well spent? Oh, yay. Yay. Oh, love it. Love it. Time well spent. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Do you feel you understand what the next steps are that you need to take? Sorry, I've got an issue with my nose. Do you feel like you understand what the next steps are that you should be taking after leaving this class? So do you feel like, hey, she gave me a lot of good information. I've kind of got the wheels turning, and I know if I'm ready to move forward, these are the next steps that I need to take. So again, drop it in the chat, say it out loud, whatever works. Yes. Yes. Definitely feel like I know what I'm doing. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So next question. Do you feel more confident about buying? So have we removed some of the scary barriers when it comes to home buying? And do you feel more confident about the entire process? Again, drop it in the chat or say it out loud, please. Yay. Perfect. Okay. Do you feel like you've learned what not to do throughout the home buying process? So we talked about all the things you should do. How do you feel? Do you feel like you've learned what not to do? Yes or yes? No. Yes. Yes. Perfect. Okay. Next question. Are you ready to start this journey with someone like us by your side? Most importantly. So one, are you ready to start this journey? And are you ready to start it with somebody like us by your side? If so, please drop a yes in the chat, say yes, send me a text message, whatever, whatever you're ready to do next. We're so excited to be there for you. All right. So booking a consultation is something that I would love for each and every one of you to do. So if you want someone who's going to guide you step by step, who's going to advocate for your success, who's genuinely going to care about you throughout this entire process, please schedule a consultation with me. We're going to go ahead and drop a link in the chat. We're going to go ahead and drop it in there. Be in there in a second. So feel free, grab that link, go on, book a consultation time with me. We can do it in a Zoom call. We can do it face-to-face, whatever works best for you. I'd love to meet you, learn about what your goals are, learn how to, build out a plan, connect you with a lender, answer any questions. Even if you're like, hey, I'm not ready to do anything right now, but I have some follow-up questions, love to chat. So I'm here for you, whatever you need. I'm not joking when I say we really want to be your real estate advisors for life. We want to be your go-to resources, and we really want to make sure that we're there to help you with that next step. One, it's super exciting, but two, it's a huge honor when you pick us to help you with your purchase. So all right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. I also have my email in there too. So if you don't book a consultation, but you want to reach out via email, feel free to do that as well. My phone number will be in there also. So feel free to shoot me a text or give me a call, whatever works best for you. Consultations are really the best so that we can go ahead and set that time up. So you have one-on-one time, but I'm open to however you want to reach out to me. It does mean the world to me that you chose to spend this time learning about the home buying process. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope you feel educated, empowered, and most importantly, excited to take this next step in your home buying journey. And you've got this. I mean, I promise it's not as scary as it sounds. We even make it fun. So, I mean, that's a little silver lining there. But we seriously are here for you, whatever your needs are. So again, please feel free, book a consultation, shoot me an email, shoot me a text, whatever works best for you. And thank you again for coming. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.